Hey Doobs, how we doing today? Welcome to a new addition to the channel called Retrospective, where I'm going to be talking about games that maybe came out back in the day or of yesteryear that I recently replayed and just would like to kind of give somewhat of a final thoughts, but really just kind of a sit-down, talky, chatty kind of thing here. So yeah, today we're going to start off Retrospective with Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. This is a very special game, in my opinion, that I didn't really notice immediately at first when this came out, January 2017 already. Yeah, 3 years ago. So it's been, 3 years since this game came out, and I recently repicked it up and started a playthrough on Madhouse. I thought it deserved a second chance just because when I initially got this game, I really did enjoy it. I had a lot of fun. I did beat it. I still love Resident Evil, but I just felt like I really didn't get what Capcom was going for here when they rebooted the series. Not really reboot, but just kind of recreated it, much like they did with Resident Evil 4 back when that initially released in the GameCube in 2005. And I see the parallels here. And so the point of this retrospective is I just got to say I have a vastly newfound appreciation for this title and mainline entry in the Resident Evil universe. I just really want to talk about how they've really recrafted what made the original so well and translated it to this modern society, which is some fun gameplay in the background. Of course, we have the Baker family. Ethan Winters is on the hunt for his girlfriend Mia, and we have a whole bunch of cool side characters in the family. But really, besides the point, I usually think that the gameplay is really what makes a game shine, because that's really what we're getting into here. You know, besides all the glorious effects and the tale it's being told, but this is truly a Resident Evil title that was much needed after the previous entries, and I'm really looking at specifically Resident Evil 6 and kind of 5. I thought those were great games too, but this game really revitalized what makes Resident Evil Resident Evil. We have backtracking, we have puzzles, we have slow burn examining items to get to the next portion of the game, and that wasn't really consistent. Especially even starting with Resident Evil 4. I mean, we saw glimmers here and there, but this is a truly terrifying game, and I think Jack Baker, the fellow we're seeing here, is way scarier than what I've witnessed in even Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. Capcom almost even took a step back, although Resident Evil 2 remake is the perfect remake. I think they did everything swimmingly in that title. But Resident Evil 7, I think is kind of one of my favorite numbered entry titles now, just because of the pacing, really the grittiness and the horror and kind of the slowly peeled layers of the story, and how this title really intertwines with the lore of Resident Evil and has some really cool surprises, especially towards the end, and everything really does come together in a fashionable way, in my opinion. I know not everyone really sees why this title is maybe applauded as it was when it came out by mainstream audiences, but I definitely see it now. I'm a hardcore Resident Evil fan. You know, I play a bunch of Resident Evil. We have a bunch of vids on this channel, and I really had to just shout this title out. If you're like me and you didn't really get what Resident Evil was, Resident Evil 7 1's Biohazard, when it first released, I wasn't all about the first person. I basically wanted a Resident Evil 2 remake is what I really wanted, and this game really reminded me of Capcom's trying of reinventing the titles, kind of what we've seen in Outbreak and Resident Evil Survivor. Resident Evil Survivor was a PS1 game, was very clunky, didn't really take off, but it did try the on-rails first-person, not really on-rails, it was open-ended. We have seen on-rails Resident Evil titles, like Umbrella Chronicles, but I'm really always looking forward to the AAA development title, what we've gotten recently with The trio, I guess the trilogy, this generational trilogy we've had with Resident Evil 7. Then we had Resident Evil 2 Remake, which people were asking for years. And then Capcom just finally decided, what the hey, we'll just do a Resident Evil 3 Remake. It's kind of hard to call them remakes just because of the cut content. And we had certain expectations for Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 Remake. But with Resident Evil 7, it was its own new numbered entry. Capcom took a step back, revitalized it with the amazing RE engine, their in-house engine that Capcom specifically created. I'm not 100% sure if it was used in Monster Hunter, but really, Capcom as a whole had a great generation with Devil May Cry, the Resident Evils, and the Monster Hunter, and really setting up for probably a lot of the titles that we'll see in the future with the next generation. Hopefully, we'll see more of their library expanded upon with games. Oh, I'm really hoping with games like Dino Crisis and maybe even some backlog titles that was disbanded from Clover Studio and Platinum Games. I'm not really sure, but I'm really hoping for a Beautiful Joe remaster or something, or brought back a series, maybe even Okami. But that's besides the point. Talking about Resident Evil 7, just the way that I'm also replaying Resident Evil Code Veronica, and I just really love the items and the really the inventory system, and it's I really understand what survival horror is rather than survival action, I suppose. There's a very clear definition of the categories here, and this is survival horror. You get your items and your herbs, and you have limited space. Where Resident Evil 4 and 5 and 6 did some of that, but then slowly kind of got away from the inventory and just kind of throwing you into a summer blockbuster action movie, which I think you can definitely get in titles like this, the more of the action, but you really do have to tone it down and take the very long, slow-winded road that I think Resident Evil is kind of meant for. When I spent my time in the Baker house here, it really did remind me of the mansion from Resident Evil 1. Really taking every corner very slowly, very unsure of what's to come next. And it really does keep it going with the beautiful models in the characters. And again, part of why I really didn't get Resident Evil 7 was I was missing out on all my fan favorites that I was playing with for years, like Chris Redfield, Leon, and Claire and Jill. And then they just introduced some generic white guy in a white shirt, and I guess there's still some disconnection from me there a little bit, and I guess we'll see if Capcom maybe expands on this character a little bit. And there's even two different endings to this game. There's even a choice there, which I really applaud Capcom for doing. Just a good way to give it some great replayability. When I did replay it, I did the second ending, and I think there is a canon ending here going forward. Should Capcom choose to reuse these characters in this setting, and we've been hearing things about Resident Evil 8 kind of being in a village, and again, we had a Resident Evil 4 in village, so Capcom is really just playing off of itself with all of its assets and all of its ideas, and sounds like we could be getting a reveal soon of something for Resident Evil. Their 25th anniversary is next year, ever since the first game debuted in 1996. So yeah, gonna be 25 years, and for the PlayStation 1, that game Resident Evil was revolutionary for PS1, and it is based off of a smaller known game called Sweet Home, which I believe was on the NES or Atari or some 8-bit console. But Resident Evil will always hold a very true, special place in my heart, as Resident Evil 2 was my first game I've ever received on my first console, the PlayStation. I'm not quite as an old as gamer as some, but I did kind of witness the birth of a lot of these franchises and a lot of these genres that grew and developed. And I grew up with developers like Jun Takeuchi and all these amazing minds that really helped form these series. And it's good to see that they're putting the right people in the right places, and really taking a step back to realize what made these games great. I know I'm kind of reiterating that, but I think when you create an idea and you run with it and you make sequels, I think you really do have to keep what people like and really figure out what that certain element is here. And for me here for Resident Evil, it's kind of what you're seeing here is you're going to have some really intense counters and then some of the slower, smaller moments, but in a really cohesively crafted experience like Resident Evil 7. I was on the edge of my seat. We had all of the notes and all of the different elements again that just make Resident Evil awesome in the exploring and the backtracking and I just had a lot of fun piecing together the Baker story here a little bit as well. There was just a lot of moments I was excited. I'm like, and then you get a big info dump kind of at the end, but you get all the classic Resident Evil tropes that made I guess the first three really good. You got different scenery, and you always have the lab, and again, you really see that shine through here in Resident Evil 7, and I just really wanted to talk about it in case maybe you gave it a chance and maybe left it on the pile of shame for a little bit. Just because even 3 years later, this game superbly holds up as a master-crafted Resident Evil entry with the great stories, introducing some great new characters, and really kind of making me excited and opens up really what's possible here in the Resident Evil universe. So yeah, I hope you guys maybe give it a try. Let me know if there's a game that you've come back to and maybe have a different perspective on, as I've found with Resident Evil. Specifically Resident Evil 7. So I'm really hoping to try some other titles. There's not a lot. I've beaten all the numbered entry titles at this point. Now it's just time to go back and play them all in the harder difficulties. But yeah, this has been really great. Just kind of word vomiting all these thoughts that I had after completing this game on Madhouse, which is really hard, by the way. So if you give this game an attempt, really take your time with it. Take those corners slowly, and if you do really like Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, please, by all means, let me know in the comments. I always want this to be more of an interactive piece and community where we talk about our most favorite games and franchises, and this is the start to the retrospective series with Resident Evil 7. Let me know if you played this game, beat this game. It's quite a ride, folks, ladies and gentlemen, especially if you're into the first-person genres. But thank you so much, Doobs and Doobettes. And of course, as always, we'll be right back.